Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Johngy or Else podcast, without which life would be incomplete and have little or no meaning. I, of course, am who else but Tommy Else. With me, as always, is the man on the beat, coming to us from Skokie, Illinois, from JohnG'sBeat.com, Mr. Jonathan Namor Roblowski.
I anxiously await each one. One of these times, you're actually going to get the right name if we do this long enough.
So it's not Namor?
No, it's not. It's not.
No. Well, because
No, it's not.
I know he's your favorite Aqua superhero, Namor,
Well,
the Submariner.
not the Submariner.
Yeah,
We'll get to that in a minute. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I do apologize to our listeners. I know our broadcasts have been a little scattered as of late. I am still going through some renovations here at Castle Else, and it's almost done. All I've got left is the living room. They're going to put down some new carpet and paint the walls. But problem is everything I own is in the living room right now, and
I can't wait to see the Johngy suite of the Elf
no,
estate.
yeah, that's called the trash room. It's down in the basement. Fortunately, there's a chute I can just throw you down from. So,
Whee!
yeah,
It'll be fun.
yeah, we'll stick a camera in there and get it up on YouTube.
GoPro.
Yeah, we'll get one on your head so you can see the shot of you going down the thing with the camera pointing up and the one pointing down. You need the Wile E. Coyote cam too.
Hey,
So we'll get all three shots, and we'll just throw John G down the garbage chute.
I'm in.
I think that's
It doesn't go into a furnace like an inferno, right? It just goes into a dumpster of some sort.
No, this just goes into a dumpster. So
yeah, that I'm in. The furnace, fire would be a little tough.
No fire. We're gonna fill it with broken glass, but no fire.
Thanks.
So, how have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. I had a long birthday weekend. I saw a couple of good music acts.
Yes. Happy belated birthday to you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I
75 is a big.
Yeah, I heard your half-hearted birthday greetings on social media. I appreciate that, you clown.
No, my whole heart was behind everything I said. It was very it was straight from the heart. Everything.
Yeah,
Meant
75.
It. Yeah. Well, you know, it's like a reverse Benjamin Button type thing. You know, it's like you just age a little faster than other people. You know, so.
All right, moving right along. People might be wondering, why do I have Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, the greatest superhero of all time and the most disrespected of all time? I have Aquaman sitting here.
Well, some people might be wondering that if they're watching this on YouTube, which they should be subscribed to. But if they're not and they're listening to it on Spotify, John is sitting with a Funko Pop of his second favorite underwater superhero, Aquaman.
Second favorite?
Second only to the Submariner.
No, Submariner's a cheap knockoff. Move beyond that. Notice it's also old. It's also old school Aquaman because that's the best.
No, I agree. The Aquaman that they're rocking right now in the movies with Jason Momoa is not. I mean, it's an interpretation, I suppose, but yeah, Aquaman had the blonde hair, the gold scales, and everything. I mean, yeah, I'm with you.
Here's the thing. I think we discussed this maybe on a different podcast, not an earlier episode of this one. The problem always has been it's not Aquaman, it's the writers. You didn't need to change Aquaman. You need to come up with good, entertaining stories for that Aquaman. Now they changed his look, they gave him the trident, all this other stuff. It's all gimmicks. It still comes down to a good story.
So, if you could be a superhero, would you opt for the aqua abilities? Would like breathe underwater and talk to fish and shit like that?
No, I mean, let's face it. If I could be a superhero, I probably would be Superman. Strength of everything, could see through everything. I mean, other than kryptonite, what's his weakness?
He is one of the more well-rounded ones for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're asking me again, my favorite superhero is Aquaman. What covers what 75% of the earth? Water. Who controls the water? Aquaman.
All right. So do you think that Aquaman could beat Superman in a fight?
Depends what kind of fight. You
A
know, if
fight.
he,
Any fight.
well, if
I,
it's a
I don't know.
fight,
Let's throw him in a steel cage. I mean, who cares?
well,
Why
no, I
does
mean,
he
if
have
it's
stipulations?
see, this is the thing. If it's a fight on land and
A
Aquaman
bar
only,
fight. I mean, I don't know.
well, if it's a fight on land, then obviously Superman has the advantage. If it's a fight in the middle of the ocean, then I give it to Aquaman.
I would think that Superman can. I mean, he doesn't seem like the type who needs to breathe underwater. I'm sure he's probably fine. I don't
Yeah,
know
but
if
Aquaman would get his he could get his fish friends to help him
that's true. That's true.
via
That's true.
either pummeling Superman, eating Superman, creating various water things that would
All
give
right. No, that's
Aquaman
a
the
that's
advantage.
a compelling argument. That's a compelling argument. Well, why don't you somehow transition all of this and
well,
introduce our guest for
well, there is a
the
transition.
day?
Aquaman is a very famous comic hero. We're going to talk about Comic Cons with a longtime friend of mine. I met him at Wizard World in 2009. He's the PR manager now for Fan Expo. Fan Expo bought Wizard World probably a couple of years ago. Jerry went with them. Jerry does a lot of things. It's not just that, but that's where I met him. That's how I know him. And he's been fantastic to me over the years. Set me up with dozens of interviews. He's been super nice to me, accommodating any way he can, and he's a lot of fun. It's always fun catching up with him at Fan Expo. Now we talk a lot of sports. We talk a lot of pop culture stuff. He's just really a great guy.
Well, if he puts up with you, he must be a saint. So, with that, why don't we get into our interview?
Without further ado, then the pride of Fordham, Jerry Milani. For the John Jarrell's podcast, we are happy to introduce into our studio the PR manager for Fan Expo, Jerry Milani. How are you, buddy?
Couldn't be better. I come back from New Orleans, our first show a couple of weeks ago, and in a couple of weeks I'll be in Portland for a return of the show there. We haven't been in a couple of years because of pandemic and Omicron, so we're in the teeth of it. Very excited.
So, are you in mid-season form?
I'm in preseason pitchers and catchers form.
First of all, welcome to the show. It's good to meet you. For those who may not be familiar with what Fan Expo is, can you kind of just give a general overview of what happens at this event, or these events, I should say?
Yeah, it's a pop culture celebration. So it's everything in the world of pop culture. It's movies and music and art and science fiction and cosplay, people dressing up in their favorite costume.
Yeah.
Comics, everything that you can think of in the world of pop culture, not just comics and not just sci-fi and not just superhero movies, but everything that goes on in the world of pop culture. There's going to be thousands of other people who love the same thing at those shows, and you get to meet them. Not just meeting the celebrities and meeting the artists and meeting that, but it's meeting each other, meeting other fans who love the same things that you love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Because, you may have a group of friends who just, aren't into that, particular movie or comic book or video game or, TV show or whatever the case is and stuff. And it's like when you go to an event like that and you see people who have taken the time to like cosplay as like somebody from something you love or whatever, then you're just like, oh, that's incredible. And yeah, connecting with the other people there is, yeah, absolutely a huge part of it beyond just the celebrities. And then I think a community gets created very quickly in the environment.
And that's my favorite part of the show. When people are waiting online for William Shatner, for when he's going to do autographs or when he's there and he's taking some time with people, other fans who love Star Trek and love anything else that he's been in, they get to meet each other. A lot of this world lives online. Like today, we watch Netflix and we watch shows and we're a little more isolated, and the pandemic worsened that. And for a lot of times, the fans that come out here, they're meeting a whole new audience of people who just love those same characters, those same shows, those same movies. And that's what the best part of now Fan Expo, and I was with Wizard World since 2009 until our shows got purchased by Fan Expo. And now I work with them on certain shows. That's always been kind of the mantra. It's always been what I've liked the most about these pop culture shows is that you're, interact with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think has been the biggest change? You said you started in 2009. What's been the biggest change in Comic-Cons?
I think over that period, I think the first one I ever went to was 2006. I was working with the International Fight League, which was a mixed martial arts league that was owned by the same folks who owned the Wizard World back at that point, Garib Sheamus and his team. And so it was the first time I'd experienced that. And then 2009 is the first one I did as a Wizard World person. I think the change has mostly been in the breadth of the audience. And that's been in part by the breadth of the guests that are there. But I think just seeing families together more. And the show is not just for the guys who love comics. And we use guys because that's what it mainly was when I think Comic-Cons really got going.
Sure.
And now it's families, it's groups of young men together, groups of young women together, kids, lots of kids. It's a huge, and we did this at Wizard World, and they do it, I think, even bigger with Fan Expo, is the family area and family zone, and just making sure that there's something for everyone to do. And since these shows have expanded their reach to everyone from 6 to 96, they've expanded who this can be for. And I think that it shows in the programming, the diversity of the programming. And, it doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter what things you love, it doesn't matter, who you are, there's something for you, and you're welcome at Fan Expo events.
Yeah, it's cool when you see like a family cosplay thing, like where like the mom and the dad and the kids are all like doing something from like, Star Wars or something like that or whatever, because that's like a whole day for them where they got up that day and they got their costumes and they made all this stuff and there was all this build up to it, and then they actually go to the event and show it off and take pictures with people and with each other and do all the other fun stuff there and stuff. So yeah, it can be a real family bonding experience and stuff. And then, to, again, get to be around other like-minded people, and share that face to face. Like you said, I mean, there's the internet, and yeah, there's plenty of groups out there where you can talk to, but I mean, there's nothing like the face to face one-on-one dynamic, where, you can vibe with somebody, and you just meet standing in line, like you said. So it's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you since you've been there that long, did you start? Did you apply to the company because of your interest in pop culture, or did your interest grow after you got the job?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a sports guy, as my background here, if you're watching on video, would indicate. I'm a sports guy first, and I think that in the world, the Comic-Con world, at least back in the 90s and the 2000s, there was a lot less crossover between big sports fans and big pop culture show fans. I think we're all pop culture fans, right? We all consume whatever our favorite shows are, and there might be everything from stuff on HBO to Netflix shows to whatever you love. For me, I was a sports person. I was working, as I said earlier, with the International Fight League, which was my current, or at the time, my employer, and it was a new mixed martial arts team-based league. We were trying to run it as if it were the NBA or the NHL. It was really our models for it. Teams based in different cities that came together to compete on a team-based format. And cool. with the ownership being the same, we actually in 2006 in Chicago brought our ring, because we used a ring rather than a cage. We used a boxing ring style. We put one right in the middle of Hall A, and we brought some of the fighters and we brought some of the coaches, and we were introducing this pop culture phenomenon that was mixed martial arts to people at this venue. And so after a couple of years that we kind of fought the good fight with the IFL, but it was tough to kind of overcome some obstacles and things. And when the league folded, and I was already working with Garib on that, we had an opportunity at the Fan Expo, or the Wizard World at that point was growing. We were expanding from the 3 shows and 4 shows they were doing a year to 6, 8, and then eventually 24 we did one year. And they needed a more permanent person to do that. And it just had, the timing just kind of worked out that as the folks who were working there before we're moving on, I was able to kind of slide into that as a client, as one of, several clients at that point. And now, Fan Expo is really kind of my main client during the Fan Expo, during the Comic-Con season, because I'm working right now on 3 different shows at the moment that I have coming up that I'm doing the PR for. And so once I'm kind of in that mode, I'm working mostly on that. And then when that is done in June, and whenever I'm working on the next show, if I only have 1 or 2 shows I'm working on the rest of the year, I'll have some time for some of my other endeavors in the sports world. But yeah, I mean, it came about by accident, and 14 years later, my key still works. So here we go.
That's good. Can you kind of give an explanation as to what your job in PR for this entails? Like, what are you doing when you get up in the morning and you go to work? What are you doing?
Well, the great thing now is I get up,
you don't have to go
my office is across the hallway and the bathroom on the way. So I got to tell you, that part of it, over really the last 5 years or so, since we closed the New York office of Wizard World, a lot of it moved to California. So we really didn't have a New York office anymore. So I didn't have to go in. And honestly, today you can do my job. You can do this part of it, obviously not the attending the show from home. But what's nice is that, we're all working from different places in the Fan Expo world. Yeah. So the show director might be in one city and the PR director is in another. And then we have a local person who works locally for us in PR in each of the markets. And then everybody's in a different city. We all get to come together for the show. So we all get to see each other. But for me, working PR for the Fan Expo specifically, I mean, right now we have 3 different shows that I'm working on, with Portland coming up in a couple of weeks, Cleveland in March, and Philadelphia is one of our biggest shows, and that's in June. So we're doing a lot of that right now, even though the show is 4 months away. We're still hot and heavy doing a lot, getting ready for that. So now it's kind of keeping a balance of making sure I'm not forgetting about Philadelphia.
Right.
But Portland's in 2 weeks. It's like, which house is on fire? Which is the one that I'm
sure. Yeah.
now. It's the Portland one in front of me. But keeping an eye on the other shows and other clients that I work on as well, making sure that stuff doesn't kind of fall through the cracks.
So is your function then to get the word out about this, and like, in what mediums are you working with?
Right. So for PR right now, look, this is evolving and changing as we speak. Every month, it seems like there's a new kind of medium you need to be refreshed on. I mean, if you told people 2 years ago that TikTok was going to be one that you needed to be really focused on,
right?
All people remember are like those guys opening the refrigerator and getting a sandwich and getting 20,000 likes and 20 million viewers from it.
Right.
How is that going to be something that's important? Well, guess what? It is.
It is.
So while we work with social media on the PR side, and in Fan Expo specifically, there's a team that just does social media, and most of my clients, there's a team that does social media, but we're involved with it. The PR side right now, for what I do and what those of us who've worked longer in the business, it's focusing on the broader media. So the print media, the electronic media, internet media, radio, whatever makes the most sense. And our side of it is not the ad buys, of course, but the PR side, the earned media. So working with media in advance. For example, in Portland, we'll work with the Oregonian, we'll work with the Portland Tribune, we'll work with the local TV stations. We'll try to get some advanced things going to let people know, hey, there's this show going on, and you may not know, you may not know that there's a Comic-Con. You may not know what that is, but you might like Star Wars, and you might think it's cool to meet Anthony Daniels, who one of the original Star Wars characters.
C-3PO.
Right, you might want to meet him. And if you read an article or you see him on TV or you hear an interview with him, now what's that? I want to go to that. So our job is to get that third-party reference, that media outside of us sending an ad out or sending out an email to everybody or posting something online. It's KXAN radio. Having an interview and saying, in KXL radio, saying, here's Anthony Daniels, and him talking about his career and talking about coming out to the show. And in fact, in New Orleans, we had Henry Winkler, and he did a ton of great press for us in advance. Henry's one of those guys that understands when he goes to an event that his job isn't just going to the event and meeting fans.
It's promoting,
also letting people know that he's there so that more people will come out to see him, and it helps the show. It helps him. And he did an interview on one of the local stations, and just everyone heard it. Everyone was coming, I heard you on the radio. And we had it for us, hearing someone external to us tell us, hey, we heard Henry Winkler on the radio.
Yeah, that's great.
validates that what we're doing is important because it's making people understand, hey, I don't know what a Comic-Con is. I don't know what a Fan Expo is, but I want to meet the fans. And that's kind of where our part comes in.
How amenable would you say most of the talents that come out are to doing press like that?
I mean, John knows this from covering in Chicago. Some are Henry Winkler and Lou Ferrigno, and understand that by letting people know they're there, it's going to help them, right? Lou Ferrigno goes on 5 TV shows in the morning in a city. People know the Hulk is there. They want to come and see him, whether or not they knew the event was happening or not. And some, it's just not their thing. And I get that. And that's okay with me because I'd rather them tell me it's not their thing than say, yeah, I'll do it and then don't. Because then
you want someone who's more enthusiastic about it and maybe even has a little more confidence behind doing it and stuff than someone who's reluctantly going into it. So,
and sometimes it changes over time. We had a celebrity on our New Orleans show who in the past didn't really want to do press. And I just kind of took a stab. Hey, what do you think? And sent it to his manager. And next thing you know, they're like, yep, tell me the 3 things you want to do. I'm like, all right, let's go for it. So
cool.
I can't write off someone just because they had one experience or you had one experience with them. Maybe that was just a bad time that they had 4 projects going on and couldn't do it. I always want to make sure I have that opportunity to match up who's the celebrity that's going to be a good fit for that outlet, right? When John comes and covers and comes out to the show, what are good celebrities for him to meet and will do the interview? And I know then that's the matchup. That's the balance that my client is the Comic-Con, or my client is the National Lacrosse League, or my client is Stratomatic Baseball. But I've got to when I work with media, get them the right fit for what's going to be a good story. One, I just don't want to mislead somebody. But second, the next time I go to them, I want to have gone to them with a good story. So they want me to do another one for them, which is always the goal, to be thinking about that relationship, because it's a business of relationships. It's knowing media who will be the right fit for your clients, and also kind of not doing the square peg round hole thing, because then you're no one benefits from that.
No, you gave me a lot of great interviews over the years, so I thank you for that. And yeah, I mean, it's always easy working with you. And of course, some celebrities don't want to do it. Some want. Some are there. I mean, they're also there to make money too, actually, at the event. So I understand when some turn me down or you down for that. But you've given me a ton of great ones. So
yeah, and then, show day at the show, our shows are generally Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There are some that are 4 days. Chicago's traditionally Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So in a city where we only have 3 days, which is the majority of the shows, we really try to concentrate everything in advance. But we understand that you can't always do stuff in advance. So on site, we want to give some opportunities to press that are there. We just do Friday, and we just do a window of about 2 or 3 hours from about the time the show opens till about 3 hours into that, just to make it comfortable for the celebrities that are there, that this is a time frame that we might have a few interviews for you. I go around and meet every one of them beforehand who are there on Friday and say, hey, I'm Jerry. Any media just come up, just say, go see Jerry, because they know they're not supposed to do that. So we can control the process in the sense that media are comfortable that I'm working for them to get opportunities that they want, and the celebrities are comfortable that I'm not just bringing anybody up to them.
Sure.
There's a vetting process for credentials, but sometimes you don't know till actually see the person and see how they're interacting and see how they're doing, whether I want to bring that person to Jodie Benson from The Little Mermaid, or even, it doesn't matter who the celebrity is. They're getting the full respect of, I'm not going to bring someone who maybe I made a mistake on giving them a credential to go up there and make they feel comfortable with that.
So I think the biggest question I've been waiting to ask is, how much did John pay you to pass the vetting process? I mean, are we talking 5 figures?
I can accept all kinds of graft.
4 or 5
yeah,
figures?
It doesn't matter. Like with John, it's just whatever he needs. I always want to help him with, because he's always helped us with stuff. But John is John doesn't need to do that for the quality of the stuff he does. So
that's surprising, but I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it.
That was a quick one. Sometimes the first time you meet someone, you don't know, right? And sometimes you end up with forming this kind of a friendship and relationship over I mean, John, how many years have we done the shows together?
I think
10,
I was at
12?
your first one in
Maybe at the first one,
2009, right?
2009. So there's
Yeah.
some, and then some, sometimes you just don't get along. Like sometimes it just doesn't work. The person is too pushy, or they want something that you can't provide, and you don't. And I've gotten my share of, flame stuff sometimes, but it's okay. I get through it, and you move on to the next one. But I'd say that for most of the media who cover our show, whether it's everything from a smaller blog to the big TV station coming in doing a live hit, we want to make sure everyone goes away with getting what they need in order to have the kind of coverage in the context of what we can provide with what I have available to work with.
Now, you mentioned Henry Winkler, and I've met Henry several times. Truly one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. Who would be some of the your personal favorites at the conventions?
I mean, Henry's hard to top. For me, I won't even really meet the ones who aren't doing press. So because they're only there Saturday and Sunday, they're not doing press. If they're just too, like, their studios won't let them. There are situations where studios won't let celebrities do press because they're still in production on certain projects, and so they don't let them do any press. So I never really get to see those. So I'm kind of in the fortunate mode that the only ones I ever really interact with are the ones who have agreed to do press. And so it starts with me with being in kind of that mode. Richard Anderson is actually my all-time favorite pop culture, Comic-Con, Wizard World, whatever you want to call it, guest. I met him probably one of the first couple shows that we ever did back in 2009, 2010. And he's been in 1,000 things. He's best known for $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman, but he's been in dozens of movies and TV shows, and he pops up on anytime you watch one of these retro channels and Hawaii Five-0 or any of the shows, you'll watch, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, there he is again. Like he was in every single show there ever was, and just the nicest guy. Also understood. Now, he wasn't the biggest name at the shows, and he knew that. But when I come over with press, he always did the interviews for me, and we did one series where he was actually at one of our shows, and he was there. Lindsay Wagner was there too, and it was just kind of a $6 Million Man reunion. And it was the occasion for all of them, Lee Majors, the occasion for all of them being there.
Wow.
They were issuing the DVD set for the first time, because it was for a long time you couldn't get the DVDs. It was music rights and everything, and this was issuing. So they were doing kind of a tour. So we were starting to get Lindsay Wagner and them doing them. Yeah. And that Monday I get back to my office, or Tuesday morning I get back to my office. There's a package sitting there. It's from Richard. He sent me one of the promotional DVD sets of the entire series.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
So he did a nice picture for Jerry, a new friend. It was just, and he passed away a few years ago, but he went to a bunch of our shows.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
Just the super nicest guy. And we started doing last year, these virtual experiences with Wizard World when we were in the pandemic period. And we did Lindsay Wagner. We had them on. And one of the questions I asked them was Richard Anderson the best, or was he the very, very best? They were just as effusive in their praise of him. So those are my favorites. Lou Ferrigno is a personal favorite, not just because he's awesome and he's the Hulk, but another one that I can just send Lou the schedule of our press for the day on Thursday and Friday. And he says, I'll see you at 6 o'clock in the morning in the hotel. Like there's no pushback. It's a guy who gets it, who understands. So for me, that's kind of for me, that's who I want to meet. And that's who I want to see. Yeah. Is it cool to meet some of the other celebrities? It is. But I generally don't kind of fanboy that when I'm working, because I'm working. I would say that Burt Reynolds was a pretty cool fanboy meet. Now, he did a couple press things, but I got to be honest, I went to see Burt Reynolds because he's Burt Reynolds.
Sure.
I saw him, and I kind of had to do that. Like that one you kind of had to do. And it was in Chicago. It was for Philly or Chicago. I forgot. He went to both shows that one year. It was his last year that he was doing conventions, and he was a little frail getting around, but man, was he sharp. And his conference. You were probably at it, John. His session was great. His Q&A session with fans was just tremendous. I mean, he was unbelievable. And a couple of, here and there have gone along the way. Leah Thompson actually is the only one I've ever gotten a photo with in the photo op booth.
Really?
I had to get Leah Thompson in the photo. James Hong, I got a photo with at his table, and I've gotten some other ones at their tables. But those are among my favorites right there.
Well,
that have
I
gotten to
can't
meet.
argue with
Every
Leah
show though, I
Thompson.
meet someone new who maybe you don't know who they are, whatever. And every show I meet someone new among the celebrity group, especially with moving to Fan Expo. We just have a different set of celebrities for fans, which is really neat and really cool. But those are definitely among my favorites.
I was going to ask you, the transition from Wizard World to Fan Expo, a lot of people online, everybody complains about everything. So there's a lot of complaints up front, what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. It's a great show. Aside from the name change, you really don't notice a whole lot of differences. There's still a huge convention. There's still a ton of celebrities. It's the same concept.
Yeah. Now, Fan Expo has, the way the sausage is made that fans don't care about behind the scenes. Some things are different, just the way things are run. And that's just the way every company is run differently than another company, even in the same space. But the product, when people come to the Fan Expo show, I always tell people you're going to go there. It's going to feel, except for the signage, it's going to feel like you're at the Wizard World show. Now, maybe the celebrity names are a little bigger, and maybe there's certain things that they emphasize more at the Fan Expo shows than they did in certain times in the Wizard World shows. I think there's a little more comprehensive across the board effort to focus on voice acting than we did at Wizard. But maybe that's also a trend that's more of a thing now than it was in 2016. There's a bigger focus, I think, on comics and comic artists, where we wavered a little on and off with that at Wizard World. I think that's a pretty consistent thing across Fan Expo. And evening events and separate events from the show itself, they try to really do more with those at the Fan Expo events. But someone who goes to a show and went to the Portland show 3 years ago, or went to Chicago, we were in that transition phase. I think that this year Chicago will be bigger and better than anyone has seen. Philadelphia is shaping up to be as big as it ever was at Wizard World. We've got a lot of things in works. We've already announced some celebrities, but I mean, in Portland, we have the whole cast. Michael J. Fox, the whole cast of Back to the Future is coming. Wow. Leah Thompson and Christopher Lloyd and Tom Wilson and Michael J. Fox. Like that's as big as it gets in this world. I think right now, today, if you said, what's the one like meet you'd want to do among any of the franchises that kind of aren't beat to the ground, that's the one. And we've got Christopher Lloyd coming to Cleveland, and we've got some more, planned down the line. And that the power of what Fan Expo can do, having 17 shows in different countries, all across the spectrum of the sea to shining sea, so to speak, and across from January all the way to November, is the ability to have a little bit more clout in terms of getting a celebrity to sign up for 6 shows. So a show like Cleveland, that's a great show, but it's a market that people don't think of first. We're going to have a great field in Cleveland, tremendous field in Cleveland, maybe the best Cleveland field we've had, which has had some really big shows there. It's going to be fun.
Now, away from Comic-Con, I know you're a big sports fan. You do some broadcasting.
I do some broadcasting, yes.
Where do you broadcast? What do you broadcast?
So I live in Bloomfield, New Jersey, which is up by Newark and Montclair, if you're geographically challenged. Northern New Jersey, not too far from New York City, about 11 miles the way the eagle flies or the whatever. And so living out here, I follow a lot of the local teams, but went to school at Fordham, 18-4 Fordham. You never think
pride of Fordham.
18-4 Fordham. You'd never think you'd hear that. Big win over St. Louis the other night. Biggest win in years. Anyway, so one of my friends worked at Adelphi University as an assistant women's basketball coach, and then she got the head job at Caldwell University, which is about 6 miles west of me, in the same county. And so I started going to her games about 15 years ago when she got the job. And the next year, the sports information director, who I knew from another life, said, "Hey, Jerry, we're going to start doing the games on the internet. Do you want to do the broadcast?" I'm like, "Of course I want to do the broadcast." So the timing just fit, and the schedule worked out that it was close enough to home that I could go and really cover games. And so since 2007, I've been the voice of the Caldwell Cougars, men's and women's basketball. And so I've done, the majority of their games, unless I have a Comic-Con or unless I had some other job that kind of interfered with it. I'd say like 90% of the games, men's and women's basketball, since then I've done their home broadcasts. And some of the other local colleges have taken that and said, "Oh, you know, this guy's sometimes available, and if their first and second option don't work out, I get a call." So Felician University, which is 5 miles the other way in Rutherford, on the way to the Meadowlands, I've done some of their games. In fact, I have a game Saturday coming up, doubleheader that I'm working. So I do about maybe between basketball, do some football, some lacrosse, some pretty much all the sports that they do broadcast for. I'll begin. I think last year I did about 75 broadcasts, and it's Division II. So the level is pretty good. It's scholarship basketball in all the sports. So the level is a pretty high level of basketball and the other sports that I do. You know, not like a lot of folks who are going on to play the pros, but you know, go to one of these games and you don't know the difference in terms of the effort and in terms of what it looks like on the field. Looks good to me. And so I enjoy getting to interact with the coaches and interact with the athletes a little bit, and just kind of keep myself in the college game and in the sports game as much as I can. And just something I really enjoy. And I, you know, prepare and really try to make the game interesting and fun. It's because it's Division II basketball. There's not a lot of criticism. It's a real positive. We want people to come out of the game going, these are kids that are getting through school. And the Division II level I love because the athletes can actually they get a chance to do the major they want. It's really a student athlete experience, whereas sometimes on the Division I level you're so focused on the sports side of it, and there's so much dedication to that. Not that the Division II athletes aren't dedicated, but the time constraints make it hard to maybe be the mathematics major or the some of the health sciences, some of the harder majors, the more challenging majors. Division II athletes can do that because there's a balance between that athletics and academics that really comes through. And so I enjoy working with these athletes and these coaches on this level. It's really fulfilling for me.
And since you got a whole bunch of Yankees, who's your favorite Yankee? All time and current.
All time is probably Lou Gehrig, and there he is right there hiding behind me. Current is just go the easy Aaron Judge, because who wouldn't want Aaron Judge to be your favorite Yankee? With a lot of other ones kind of in the way and in between, but I think those are the choices. If I had to pick one of each, that's who I pick.
Well, we just interviewed Susan Ligorej, the Suze,
Suze is the best. I love Suze. Yes,
she named Aaron, not Aaron. She named Anthony Rizzo, which hurt us as Cub fans.
Yeah,
Rizzo's a good one too. No, I mean, look, the Cubs kind of ran their course with Rizzo, and I think they got a lot out of him, and the Yankees are happy to have him. I mean, happy his leadership, his 32 home runs, his defensive first base, and just look, there were limited options probably for the year for him to go, but for him to come back to the Yankees was big for them.
Well, good for him.
I mean, he wasn't going back to the Cubs.
No.
Yeah, they weren't even interested really in bringing him back. I don't think.
Yeah,
they have a different.
Well, they didn't want any of the guys.
We're our contempt is not with him personally. It's the Cubs should have done what they could to make more of him, I think, but that's another show. So
the Cubs. Well, the thing with the Cubs, I think when they got to the point where they kind of peaked a year earlier than you thought, right, and then they won the World Series, and then you just think, man, this is going to be a dynasty. Every time someone wins the World Series, you think they might be a dynasty for 3-4 years, and it never works out. Forget about like sometimes not working out. It never works out. I mean, you don't have repeat winners. You don't have dynasties anymore. Those days are over, and I don't think that the Cubs were. Everyone got in the Yankees in the '60s. Everyone got old at the same time.
True.
I'm just happy they won one in my lifetime.
Yeah. I'm good. Right. We got one. Well, all right. Well, we really thank you a lot for coming on the show and talking to us and telling us all about how all that works over there. And the shows are great. I have not been to one of those specific events, but I've been to similar types, and I do highly encourage people to go to them. It is a good time. It's a lot of good, clean fun. You get to meet not only celebrities but other like-minded people. You get to see a lot of cool things, from toys to, art and all sorts of stuff, vintage things, new stuff, up and coming artists of all types. I mean, it's just this big melting pot of just creativity and fun. And so I highly recommend checking these out because they're all over
I
and they're
think
coming
people come to the shows with one thought of what their favorite thing is, and often they'll go home with something else that was their favorite thing.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I go in with like, I know I'm looking for something specific or to see somebody specific, but something is bound to catch your eye and be like, oh wow, look at that. It's like you just never would have thought about that or something, or that person or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's can be very it's very cool, and it's something where it's like you can literally spend the whole day just wandering around, getting lost, looking at stuff and seeing all the different things available there. It is a really fun time, so I highly recommend it.
Jerry, before we let you go, though, your alma mater is playing my alma mater on Saturday, the women's basketball team.
Oh boy,
take it easy on us, though.
Yeah, I tell you, Fordham's women's basketball program over the last 10 years has been just fantastic. They've gone to a couple of NCAA tournaments. New coach this year, assistant coach moved up to be the head coach, but just a really well run program. The Rose Hill Gym at Fordham is the just ultimate like palace to watch. It's a tiny little place, but it's going to be celebrating 100 years in 2025. It's
wow.
1925.
That's
but
cool.
like one of those like old timey like places to watch a game. And yeah, Fordham's women's program and has been the one that everyone's kind of modeling after at the school. And men's basketball is trying to catch up. We've been 30 years since we've been to the NCAA tournament, so we're trying to change that.
Well, I can't even offer a bet because I think you guys are going to beat DePaul. DePaul's on the downside. They're having a really rough year, and I think they're in for a few years of a bad stretch coming up. But
yeah, Fordham just took out Bonaventure by I think they won by 30 last night.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same outcome Saturday, but I'll be watching anyway. So. Awesome. But Jerry, really, man, I want to take this time too to thank you for everything over the years. You've been great. Like I said, you set me up with a ton of interviews, including my all-time favorite, Lauren Holly, which is one of my greatest memories, and many more too. And I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you've done for me over the years, and I look forward to a lot more fun coming up, man. And thank you.
Same here, John.
Thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Take care, buddy.
Bye.
Take care.
And that was the pride of Fordham, PR manager for Fan Expo, Jerry Milani.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I mean, like I said, I have not been to a actual Fan Expo branded event like that, but I've been to similar ones that are like that. And and with you most of the time, honestly. And yeah, they're a lot of fun, and it's neat to hear kind of a little bit of what goes into making them come together and getting the word out there, and how to how they deal with letting people like you go and interview celebrities and things like that. And it was very magnanimous of him to not reveal what you paid him under the table to get your credentials.
It's funny. I mean,
but
real quick, the two quick things. Like, he gave me a credential back in 2009 when I was, I just had Johngy's beat, and I just started Johngy's beat in 2008, so I was really nothing back then. And he, he gave me credentials then, and I've since have more sites and more like this podcast, other interviews. So I've grown, but he's been really cool to me over the years. But I mentioned the Lauren Holly interview. And I mean, I don't know how much but Lauren Holly was one of my major crushes for pretty much forever, since she was on All My Children in the 80s.
Okay.
And I asked him for the interview, and he, just like that, I went over to him, he went over to her, set it all up. It was great. She said, yeah, as soon as there's no fans in line. Perfect. There were no fans in line. Matt and I were there, my nephew. We're there. The last fan leaves. I start walking up. I was like 5 feet away. I start walking up. Luke Perry comes over and starts talking to her.
I remember you telling me this. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, my one chance, and now the line starts reforming, and I'm just going out of my mind because
Yeah. You're
Jones
right
and
there.
her,
Yeah.
but we waited out. And there's only maybe another 10 fans who went through, and Perry was done. He got out of there. But when I met Perry later on, at a convention years later, I told him about that. And then every time I met him afterwards, he would tease me about that. And I mean, he was another great guy, Luke Perry.
Yeah. Yeah.
His son, of course, wrestles for AEW now.
Yeah. I might know her if I saw her because I used to, as a kid, watch All My Children when I was probably up until 5 years old or something like that. And I knew who some of the people were. And I remember like I would know, I might know her face if she was around
Well,
between
okay.
if she was between 80 and 85 somewhere, I might remember her, but
Well,
I'd have to
forget
see.
All My Children. You definitely would know her from Picket Fences. You would know her. She was on one of the like NYPD, one of those shows, but she was also in Dumb and Dumber.
Who was she in Dumb and Dumber?
His girlfriend.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
All right. All
yeah.
right.
And
Well,
she was in a ton of movies. Those aren't the only ones. But I just love her. She was sweet as can be, and so I forever owe Jerry for that. And others, Thomas Ian Nicholas was a great guy, always, especially in Chicago because of the movie, obviously Rookie of the Year. But there's so many that Jerry set me up with, and it was just fantastic, and I appreciate it. And it's a great convention. I'm not just saying that because I get to meet and interview celebrities. It really is one of the best conventions around.
well, and it does mean something coming from you though, because you have been to pretty much every convention under the sun, and there is a difference. There's ones that are well run. There's ones that are well stocked with not just celebrities but all sorts of different talents and everything, and better venues and things like that. All those variables come together to make or break a show. So
And I
so
wouldn't keep going back to. I mean, obviously it was Wizard World then, and now it's Fan Expo. I wouldn't keep going back if I thought the show was bad or for any of those reasons. But it
right.
really it's one of the best.
Well, there you have it. When do we know when they're coming to Chicago next time?
It's in August. I don't have the exact dates. I
Well, when
believe
we
it's in August.
when we get them, we'll talk about it on a future show. We got some time
Yeah,
before August, but when we find out, we'll remind everybody
absolutely.
who's at least in the Chicagoland area. Otherwise, I'm sure you can go to fanexpo.com or something like that.
We
Do we
will
have
put
a
that link up right
cool?
about now. It's
Yeah,
probably been up the whole time we've been talking though, because I'm a
yeah,
master at that.
yeah. And then yeah, and then that way wherever in the world you're or in the continental United States you're listening, you might find one coming to a town near you.
And give it
So
a shot, man. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, it is. It is.
I
It
mean,
really
because
is.
there's like you said, there's so many different things. You can go there for celebrities. You can go there for comic books. You can go there to meet the artist. You can go there to just buy stuff like this cool Aquaman thing. All sorts of whatever. If there's anything in the world of pop culture that you enjoy from any genre, it could be science fiction, comic, comedy, sports. It's all going to be there. You're going to find something that you like there,
Right.
and you might even see me.
Oh, yeah. Well.
I will do interviews if anybody's interested. I sign autographs for free. I pose.
Oh God. All right. See, we were doing a good job promoting this thing. Now they're like, oh, I might have to
No,
run. I
no,
might have to run into John Robleski now. I don't know if
two
I should.
people at the last Fan
I
Expo
don't.
asked for pictures with me that I did not know. They just recognized
Mhm.
me from somewhere.
Yeah, the wanted poster at the post
Doesn't
office or
matter.
something.
I
Yeah.
logged them in.
Unbelievable. Well, if there's more people out there who for some reason actually want to see you in some capacity, where on the internet can they find John Robleski?
They could search John G's Beat and they'll find me pretty much anywhere. Search John G's Beat on social media. You'll find me anywhere. Search John G's Beat actually search the John G or Else podcast on Spotify and you'll find us. But where, my friend, could they find Tommy Else?
Well, John, they could find me on the gram at Tommy underscore else. They can find me on the twit at Tommy_else. They can find our show on the book at the Johngy or Else podcast. They can find us on the tube, the Johngy or Else podcast. As you mentioned a moment ago, you can also listen to all of our episodes, including our other show, Pinfalls, on the spot. You can find our merchandise at the Tees, ProWrestlingTees.com, in the Johngy's Beat store. Black and white t-shirts are available along with hoodies. Just scroll past all of the Johngy's Beat shirts and you'll
It's
find
unnecessary.
I'm just letting them know where to find it.
I'm throwing the flag. It's a foul.
They'll know. I don't want them seeing that and getting like, crap, I found the wrong page. Just like,
that's a foul.
Scroll down, keep going. It's there. Trust me. And
unnecessary roughness.
So yeah, that's where they'll find me. So but yeah, so until next time, again, do check out the YouTube channel and our Spotify and subscribe if you will.
And tell your friends.
Say, hey, you should listen to Tommy Else. He's got this podcast. There's this other guy on there too, but Tommy's he's worth listening to put up with the other dude. So
I'm talking to Elliot Serrano again.
Yeah, well. All right. With that, I, of course, have been who else but Tommy Else. With me, as always, is the man on the beat from Johnny'sBeat.com, Mr. John Arbleski.